Hello, I'm delighted to join Bank Audi to discuss the most imminent economic implication of Gaza war. And my guest is Dr. Marwan Barakat, Group Chief Economist and Head of Research at Bank Audi. The bank's research covers a wide range of economic, sectoral, and market reports, and is considered as a reference source for the MENA region economic studies and researches. Gaza war is multi-faced, and it can have imminent and long-term implications on sectors and on stakeholders. Let's begin with reference to the latest economic report, Bank Audi economic report on Lebanon. What are the ongoing implications of Gaza war through the first quarter of 2024?
Well, let's say that the first quarter, the economic conditions were a mirror image of the last quarter of last year. I'm talking about a real economy that is adversely hit by the war spillovers, direct and indirect war spillovers. I'm talking about a stable monetary situation characterized by the stability of the Lebanese pound's exchange rate relative to the US dollar, despite the war effects. And I'm talking about a quasi-equilibrium in external balances, in external position, and in public finances. Let me explain. First, the real sector indicators suggest that we are in a stagnant economy. If you look at the indicators over the past 6 months, real sector indicators such as port activity, airport activity, number of tourists, construction permits, all these have been in the red over the past 6 months, suggesting that growth is close to nil or slightly negative. But the monetary situation has maintained its stability. The exchange rate is around 89,500 for the quarter, or for the past year, actually, for the past 12 months. And the reserves of the central bank have been reinforced by close to $1 billion since the change in the governorship of the central bank back in July of last year. In parallel, inflation has declined from 360% back in March 2023 to 36% today. But given the stability of the Lebanese pound, this 36% remaining inflation is a dollar inflation, which exerts additional pressure on Lebanese house in general. But the most important is that the exchange rate maintained its stability. And this comes within the context of 3 factors. First, the economy has become highly dollarized. The supply of Lebanese pound is limited. We're talking about currency in circulation, Lebanese pounds, of 60 trillion LP, which is equivalent to $660 million at the market exchange rate, which is 7% of the foreign currency reserve of the central bank. So technically, the market is in control. But also, fundamentally, the public finances are in equilibrium. The budget 2024 suggests that public revenues are equal to $3.4 billion, which is almost equivalent to public expenditures, leaving no deficit in the budget. And also, the external equilibrium is important, supporting the exchange rate stability, because the balance of payments did not witness a deficit over the past year. According to central bank, the change in the net foreign assets is $2.2 billion over the past year. We adjust this change due to the effect of the change in the official exchange rate on the net foreign assets of bank through the LP non-resident deposits. So at constant exchange rate, the balance of payments, the real balance of payments, is $500 million. But it's positive, meaning that the money that came to Lebanon over the past year is more important than the money that left Lebanon over the same year, which suggests that we do have a surplus in foreign currencies that support the currency stability in general.
Let's stretch out on this subject. Is there any ongoing economic implication on the Lebanese economy through direct and indirect channels?
Yes, we estimate the direct and indirect spillover effects at around $6 billion, of which $2 billion is direct damages. I'm talking about the impact of the war in South Lebanon on housing, on infrastructure, on agricultural sector, agricultural degradation. So direct damages, $2 billion. But the indirect damages are even more important because they affect the economy as a whole. And they are around $4 billion, impacting the touristic sector and the investment aggregate. The touristic sector has been hit. It has been hit due to the impact of the war on the holiday season and Christmas, the Fitr season, the Easter season as well, and the ski holidays as well. So the winter holidays. So accordingly, the touristic sector has been hit, and the total tourism revenues foregone are equivalent to $1 billion on the basis of a decrease in the number of tourists by 24% over the past 6 months, with an average spending by tourists in Lebanon in general of $3,000. So if you do the math, the calculation, you would reach a $1 billion tourism foregone. But the impact on the investment aggregate is even more important. Somebody that wanted to open a hotel, a business, a restaurant, has cancelled or delayed his investment decision, accordingly leading to an investment to GDP ratio of less than 10%, which is one of the low ratios in emerging markets, and which is one of the lowest ratios in the recent contemporary history of Lebanon. As a measure of financial investment risk, pricing by the markets, we look at Eurobonds, because they are internationally traded. Sovereign Eurobonds, which used to be traded at 8 cents to the dollar back on October 6th, on the eve of the crisis, on the eve of the war, today are being traded at around 6 cents to the US dollar, suggesting that the market perception of Lebanese investment risk has declined by 20% over the period.
Yeah. Let's tackle the regional economic implication of Gaza war. In your opinion, Dr. Barakat, was the MENA region adversely impacted by this war?
Well, the conflict is another shock to the MENA region. It's evident. When you look at the growth in the MENA region, it used to be forecasted by the IMF in the WEO, in the World Economic Outlook, at around 3.4% back in October for 2024 growth. Now it is forecasted at 2.7%. So we're talking about 0.7% of growth foregone, which is due mainly to the conflict, in Gaza and the spillovers on neighboring countries, but also to the oil production cuts and the tight monetary policies that have been followed. But the touristic sector in particular, which is an important foreign currency earner and an important employer in the region, has been hit. Before the war, we used to have a 20% increase in the number of tourists when compared to the year before, which makes, according to the WTO, the MENA region as the best performing region, and that is the only region in the world that has reached its pre-pandemic level in terms of touristic performance. Now this is behind us. The war has affected the region, and in particular the neighboring countries. If we look at neighboring countries, the most affected in terms of priority of impact, of course we have West Bank and Gaza, but also we have Lebanon, followed by Syria, followed by Iraq, and then followed by Egypt and Jordan. All these countries have been affected in terms of touristic performance by the war effects. On the other hand, the GCC countries are totally insulated from the war impact. They have been doing well, and they represent 63% of the output of the MENA region, and their performance has not been affected significantly. Even in the event of a regional escalation, the increase in oil prices as a result of regional escalation would improve the fiscal position and the external position of those countries which support their growth. But for the MENA, to end on a positive note, for the MENA region as a whole, now we are talking about declining inflation, which means that the tight monetary policies that have been followed over the past couple of years are likely to be reversed. And this is positive for growth in the different countries of the MENA region and for MENA growth as a whole.
Also, in your opinion, do you think that the Israel-Gaza war had any global economic implications?
No, the global economy remained resilient. Growth is forecasted at 3.2% for 2024. It used to be forecasted before the war at 2.9%. So we have a slight improvement in growth. And this is due to the fact that inflation has declined. we are talking about loose fiscal policies as well, and we are talking about an insignificant impact of the disruption in the Red Sea on the global maritime trade. Let me explain. First, it's true that oil prices have increased. They increased from close to $80 to $88. But when the increase in oil prices is within the $10 range, according to the general rule of thumb, this means that you don't have major inflationary effects. And core inflation, if you put aside the energy prices, has declined by 1.2% over the past year. Now you say the impact of the Red Sea disruptions should have been inflationary and impacting global trade. It did not, though it represents 12% of the global maritime trade, the trade that crosses from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. But given the ample shipping capacity on one hand, and given that there have been limited costs, there have been costs in terms of insurance costs and transportation costs for longer shipping routes around Africa, but not to the impact of affecting global inflation. As a matter of fact, global inflation has decreased from 6.8% last year to 5.9% 2024 as forecasted by the IMF. Last, fiscal policies. The year 2024 is denoted as the great election year. We have elections in different parts of the world for national governments. And in general, in periods of election, governments tend to spend more to avoid fiscal adjustment or to postpone fiscal adjustment to follow expansionary policies which would support growth in those economies and which would support overall global growth at large.
Thank you, Dr. Barakat, for this valuable analysis. I believe the interview has provided prospects on navigating today's complex economic environment. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.